All right, everything's live.
All right.
That means we're live, Anduin.
Coming to you live.
Well, let's begin this as this is the Gray Sentinels podcast, and the starting subject is going to be Ashes of Creation. We'd really like to talk. I'd say combat systems would be a good start to our discussions here.
Well, let's
Okay,
introduce
I have a
everybody
question.
first.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I know I'm totally going out of order on this already,
There's no.
but I
fucking
see
order,
on
right?
the
Just
screen
talk.
your awesome logo. What is the Latin?
Latin. All right. So, the Latin of Gray Sentinels is acta non verba, actions not words. And the whole reason behind that is I think a lot of times guilds they like to say a lot of stuff, but they don't really back it up. And then bonus Requiem Victoria is victory in death, and the Mortem Sacrificium is sacrifice in death. And the whole point is that the Gray Sentinels are meant to fight until the last man and make sure that we're holding the point. We will go against odds that are greater than ours to try and ensure. So no matter what the threat is, we will make sure that there's at least someone holding the line. And I think it's a big thing to make sure that happens in this game, because it's going to be large guilds, there's going to be large sieges that happen, and there always needs to be someone holding down the fort, even when people think it's going to lose. Everything's lost. So,
Like the Iron Fist.
the Imperial Fists of
Fist, yeah.
Yep, the Imperial Fists of Warhammer 40K.
Very cool, guys.
Yep.
All right. So So you want to talk about game mechanics? So both you and me were at PAX, so we have a brief understanding of what is going forward into the game in terms of class mechanics.
Yep. And since I know quite a few people have played into the pre-alpha, but since that's all NDA, all we have to go off of really is what they've shown in their podcasts and at PAX, basically. So I really think that from at least what we played at PAX, it was interesting because I mean, there was quite a few things that made it fun to play ranged characters more than in other games, because it actually felt like you were doing more than just clicking a button over and over again until something died. I don't know how much they've fixed it in recent versions of it, but Melee kind of seemed a little clunky. But I'm sure they worked on that with the response they got from PAX. So,
Do we all have an understanding of the class list, and do we have an idea of what classes we might be playing if the game were to come out soon? And ideal for us.
Personally, I'm going fighter cleric because I've always liked the whole paladin scene. I like to be able to deal out good damage, but at the same time, throw heals downfield. Also, since it has been mentioned that different officers and guild leads may have passive buffs or may have different things in the game, it would be wise to have your guild leads have more tankier classes or have healer classes based on they need to stay alive to ensure their guild is getting the most out of them while they are able to live.
All right. Do what about you? What do you think will be your ideal class going into Ashes of Creation? How do you think you'd like that to play?
Well, I've been thinking about it a lot. Probably gonna do something like fighter summoner or fighter bard. Like if I was doing fighter bard, I'd hope that I could be like a strong melee force of my own while also be able to support my allies. Um, Fighter summoner, I just hope it's like I get a few. I don't know how they're gonna do it, totems or minions or what,
Okay.
but yeah, I guess I mostly want it to just be like melee oriented. But
That's the first
I
time
don't
I've
know.
heard the
It's really
mention of
interesting how the classes
totems.
are working.
I've never considered totems as an option for the summoner before now, actually.
I mean, yeah,
Like
they're
a
pretty good.
shaman of sorts.
Yeah, like the way Divinity Summoner works.
Hmm.
Or like Path of Exile totems would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of style.
Now, with how it seems with summoners in the game, it seems that each one is specializing in a specific kind of branch of summoners. So you have hunters where they're going to have more of like a random pet, and then you have some that are going to be demons, maybe even necromancers with the undead, stuff like that. So I do have to wonder how expansive the summonings will be. Like, are you going to be cut off from doing X summonings if you choose the Y path or whatnot? Like, I think that's kind of an interesting thing, because then that would make I think then the meta is gonna have to form based on maybe the demonic summoner is better than the cleric
That's one
summoner
of
or
the
something like
biggest
that. So.
fears is meta. Because with the wide variety they have going into the game, meta is something that will come, but there's has to be something that's going to balance it out to make it so that even if you're not taking the meta route, because there's always going to be a meta route, and that's unavoidable, I believe, that there's something you can still do that's interesting or at least niche that can help a group in a strange situation so that you're still valued over the meta.
Mm.
All right.
Tug and Karthos, what are your thoughts on your different
What
classes
classes
you're
we all
looking
gonna
at?
do?
Hey, Karthos.
Well, right now, just based on what I know about the game, what I've seen, range is kind of king right now. And so I've been thinking a lot about. I played Arcade, which was probably the most recent major MMO that I played, and the Stone Arrow. I remember that being a pain in PvP. It was a tanky class, melee tanky ability, but you also had ranged. You had a lot of different mobility. You could take a little bit of damage. You had some stuns, things like that. And so I'm looking at right now a ranger tank kind of combo, and I think that might be a good PvP thing to explore in the future.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see how they go about like countering or if there will be counters to range and stuff.
All right. So
I mean,
okay, go ahead, Anduin.
well, I mean, there's the counters. I think are going to be probably gap closing type skills or holes, but they definitely need to ensure that the fighters or the melee classes don't just overwhelm them just by closing the gap like that, and there's no way to really come back from that. But
Well, yeah,
yeah.
Just to add a little bit, range is literally about killing the guy before he gets to you. You want to keep the gap open as long as you can, and just based on what we have released so far with skills for the ranger, there is a route, and there are several different things that like a dot that we don't necessarily really know what it's going to do fully yet, could cause a slow. So that aspect of the game has always interested me, is controlling the other player enough more than nuking them down. I want to affect the other player more than necessarily kill them right off the bat.
Yeah, and I mean, for all we know, there might be tank summoner could possibly be pretty crazy and have eventually get some, like, they can summon up like traps on the ground to basically stun the enemy, or they could like summon up like the totem idea you guys had. They could summon up a totem that automatically makes players attack it. So then in that time they close the gap or something along the lines. Just a
You also
few
have to
ideas.
wonder, for pets and totems, they could go both ways, or will they have clipping? And if they don't, then you can use them as a barrier between you and your opponent.
Mm-hmm. Tug, what class are you planning on rolling or ideas on?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit old school. The glory days of MMOs for me are early WoW still. And
Yeah.
when it comes to classes, I think of it in two different sets, right? PvP and PvE.
Mm-hmm.
And on that PvP front, which is what I enjoy the most, I love being stealth. So I love getting rogues and druids together who can go out and stealth and get behind and poke things. So unlike Karthos wanting to control that gap, I want to get up there and just stab them. So I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the PvE side, I'm kind of holding out judgment on that. I know as a player, I tend to suck at DPS, at range DPS especially. So I tend to play tanks and heals because of that. Heals is where I'm generally strongest.
Mm-hmm. What is what's your thoughts about stealth in PvP content in like a siege? Like, how will the clipping, for say, if there is clipping collision in the game, how do you think it'd be good to balance out stealth so they're able to move around the city and get behind so they can strike in the back? Or, even if, let's put it the other way, how is it going to be balanced for the other side? What do you think would be best to make that a possibility, I guess?
Yeah. I actually really like the idea of collision detection, making it so that you could put your back to a wall as a form of defense. I think that's a cool mechanic. I think it adds a challenge. I hope that they, as part of the objectives, they've mentioned that sieges will have multiple objectives throughout them, including having, the siege raid group take down a boss as one of the objectives. But I hope that there are other minor objectives that require stealth or subterfuge to be able to get and accomplish.
Well, like what I said earlier, I mean, I think it'd be really interesting if they made it a mechanic that in sieges is you can decrease respawn time, or even make it a victory point for every guild leader or guild officer that's killed. It goes towards either side, so you have to actually defend your guild leads and officers. I think that'd be really interesting to have as a mechanic. And it, like you said, it would give your rogues, your stealthier units, your glass cannons, it'd give them something to do in the fight rather than, just kind of pokey stab on the sides.
Yeah, it'd be cool if there were positions around the battlefield, maybe outposts, where the defenders have to put an officer into that outpost who then controls the NPC movements.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
go on.
Sorry, then that would give you, if that outpost was a stationary target, then now your rogues have something to go hit to knock out their NPCs effectively. Things like that.
Yeah.
Well, it would be kind of cool is, since we know there's going to be mayors, kings, queens, what have you, I think it'd be cool if they could assign titles that actually have pull behind them. So like a war master of a node, or like an economic officer, stuff like that. It'd be kind of cool if you had those. So then in a node siege setting, you'd actually have to have those people set up around the city and have them defended. Have them kind of like mobile strategic points. I think it'd be kind of interesting where they only get one life. So you could have it multiple tactics where you have them either spread out throughout the city so they don't, all get killed at once, or you could put them in one central defensible location and basically have a huge army around them. I think it'd be kind of interesting. And then have the attackers have to proclaim a few a few lords or something of the siege that they'd have to be strategic. So it'd kind of balance it out. So let's say if the defenders are losing, suddenly they're like, well, we could do a final last charge type of thing and knock out the heads. They could make the siege halt. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say about classes before we move into a different segment of the podcast?
I don't.
I threw off our rhythm at the beginning, just doing an introduction and what our backgrounds are. So we may want to step backwards too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do
Oh, yeah, we
that.
can go ahead and introduce ourselves.
All right,
right.
so let's let our guests introduce themselves first, since you guys took the time to come here. So we'll go Karthos first, and then Tug.
All right, my name's Karthos. I've been excitedly following this game since December of 2016. I played on the same Arcade server as Steven, and so I was friends with a bunch of people that were in his guild. And one of them kind of alerted me. They said, hey, this new project's coming up. You might want to take a look at it. And ever since then, I've just been hooked. But I started, my first MMO was Lineage 2, and Lineage 2, and I just was hooked ever since. I've worked my way through there. Weird little games, game called Farantis, which I don't even know if it exists anymore. Silk Road Online, Lord of the Rings Online, of course, WoW. I led a guild in WoW, raiding guild, and all the way up to like FF14, FF11. The only really major MMO recently that I haven't played, I'll have to admit, is Black Desert. I never got into it. But currently Officer in Mutiny, so don't hold that against me because I am just a meme.
All right, Mr. Tug.
Do gaming background first. I started gaming with Star Wars Galaxies and then was actually in early access stuff for World of Warcraft because down in Austin knew some folks. Played WoW from launch through, I don't know, for about 6 years, pretty dedicated. And then just real life started happening. So took a break from PC gaming, did a lot of Call of Duty and other shooters. And then with Ashes of Creation, was looking in May last year to get back into an MMO and saw Ashes, saw that it wasn't going to come out for a while. So I said, you know what? That's it. So put my flag back down here, and in August of last year, booted up the cohort. We're mainly, we play shooters, and then we're holding our breath for Ashes. So it's been fun to play PlanetSide 2 with Grey Sentinels and hopefully Ashes soon.
All right, then Do.
Yeah, I'm due. Been playing, MMOs all throughout my life, pretty much. Just lots of shitty ones like Maple Story and that's not the shit I'm joking. But played PlanetSide 2 and lots of World of Warcraft, Warhammer Online, and just part of a big 40k group. Me and Ando and a bunch of other people run it. It was like a 40k EC group. Right now, I'm a PvP officer in the Grey Sentinels.
All right, Crumb. Oh no, he's asleep.
All right, I'm here. All right. Hi, I'm Crumb. I stream. I've been playing MMOs for the past 8 years. I've been a big part of the Elder Scrolls Online scene as well as the World of Warcraft scene. And that goes as far as my MMO history. I've been jumping between some other ones, but they've all been trash. I'm not going to name those, but there's been a lot of MMOs put onto the market recently that have all been semi-disappointing, to say the most.
It's definitely a very subjective market.
It is. And yeah, besides that, I play with the Grey Sentinels, and I play just about every fantasy game that also comes onto the market.
All right. Well, I'm Anduin Kayvon. I'm leader of the Grey Sentinels. I think a lot of my online gaming, it goes back to Call of Duty on PC, like the first and second one. Warcraft 3 I played a lot of on there up until maybe, I don't know, maybe 8-10 years ago. I don't know. I was involved in map making and stuff. few of my guild members on or clan members on there did like life of colonists and peasants and Titan land and God's land and all the different random RP stuff on there, and it was a fun time. After that, I stumbled into World of Warcraft and ESO, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and bits and pieces of MMOs along the way. Primarily, I've always been a PvPer and an RPer in games, but I do PvE as well. I'm looking forward to Ashes just because I think it offers a little something for everyone, and because of the wide variety, the vastness of the game that they're offering, I don't think there's going to be just be a few guilds that run everything. I think we're going to see something that's quite unique in the MMO world. I think there will be powerful guilds, powerful alliances, but what I'm hoping is that the world's so large that you actually have factions develop that involve other sub factions forming from them. So that's what I'm really excited for. I'm excited for the politics. I'm excited for just seeing how Ashes evolves and how the world grows. So
All right. So we've all had a good standing in the MMO scene before, and we already have an idea from their Kickstarter about some of the ideas they plan on implementing, like the auction houses, the what's it called? The stock market. In-game stock market, we have shipping, we have the Underrealm. Based off of what we've seen before in other MMOs, how do we think this is going to develop going further into Ashes? Are they going to do something that's completely unique? Or are they going to pull some ideas from past well-developed MMOs and try and make that better?
I don't think I've seen stock market specifically from what you mentioned. It'd be really interesting to see how that worked. I knew GTA Online was planning on having that at some point, but they never did implement it. So I mean, I don't think there's really an example for that.
There
It'd be interesting to
was,
see what it's
I
going to be
believe, Eve.
based off. I guess it'd be player
yeah.
markets and stuff.
Yep.
Like their stores.
Eve Online had one. I didn't really dabble too much into Eve, but I know that they had a large enough one that whenever anyone does talk about stock markets, it goes back to that game, and it fluctuated and evolved completely compared to what the player needs and player wants were. So, as far as like their game mechanics that there's a few that really come to mind when that put them apart from other games. So I think the experience, the building up of nodes and stuff, that isn't just going to be like a Star Wars Galaxy. We just build a city. I think this is going to be something more that it evolves over time, which I like a lot more than just having us build up a bunch of buildings and there's no story behind them other than we just got a bunch of resources. I think it's more interesting to see as it evolves from our actions and that we create the lore and the stuff as we go.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that Ashes is doing different is that they're not trying to develop independent systems. Like in a lot of games, the even in Eve a little bit, the economy is yeah, you do some battles to control areas of the universe for that economy. A better example would be WoW raiding, right? WoW raiding has nothing to do with WoW PvP, and professions when they were a thing in WoW didn't really affect other things, or there wasn't a huge amount of interchange between one system and another system. Whereas in Ashes, all of the systems are very interrelated. So I actually think it makes it really hard for a lot of people to grasp the scale of what the Intrepid team is trying to do, because it's hard to think about all the moving pieces and how they're all going to fit together and how that's going to affect nodes and combat and sieges and castles and even dungeons and raids. So it is a big scale.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting point earlier. about the faction, or like kind of almost lack of faction system. You've got the famous Horde versus Alliance in WoW, and East versus West, or whoever versus whoever in most games. There's 3 different factions in ESO, and the fact that players are going to decide what faction they want to be a part of, or I'll put air quotes around that quote, faction. They're going to be completely player driven, completely player run, and I think you're right. We're going to see a fracturing of the community into these many different factions, and some of these factions are going to be 2 or 3 guilds, and some of them are going to be 20 guilds. Some of them are going to own a quarter of the map, and some of them are going to have half a node. And it'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes out. And I have faith that their system is going to do that. It's something that not really any other game has pushed this far into. I mean, there's a few examples of this. I don't know if anyone ever played Albion Online, but there was a black zone that you could go, which was just a full open PvP zone, and you could actually own these different. They were essentially nodes. They were little territories, and guilds controlled them, and you could go and fight to take them, and it was sort of an arena-based battle. But that system is just new enough, but not so far on the edge that it's scary. You don't want to see a WoW clone, but you also don't want them to have to completely reinvent the wheel and fail at it. So it's like an exciting thing to watch happen, and I agree that we're going to see these many different factions of guilds coming up here when it launches in hopefully 2 years.
Well, I think a big thing along with the factions is you're going to have these politics between all these guilds. So it's not going to just be Guild X is going to hate Guild Y and they're just going to throw stones at each other. You're going to see guilds go at each other's throats. You're going to see nodes rise and fall based on the political thing. We're going to see Game of Thrones in a game. It's going to happen. And that's, I think, what's the most appealing, is that every single thing you do, both in-game and out-of-game, which is kind of sick because that's how the community's gone currently, is going to influence how relations are going on. And I really think it's really, really going to be fun to see who is going to back up other people, because you're not going to have the guilds who turn their back, don't support their allies, or don't show up to the fight. They're going to be known on that server as that's what they are from then on out. And it really goes to show that whatever happens is really going to influence how the story and strategies of the nodes go. And again, factions, I think, will be key to making this game better than any other game we've played. So
yeah, and what's really interesting about having everybody just sort of like be against each other, so to speak, is like when all the new players coming into the game, because most people aren't gonna be coming into this game with alliances. The people that you meet and interact with in the game, and the people that you decide to be your friends, you're gonna be like with them, fighting for them, trying to gain influence with them. Like it's gonna be like an actual camaraderie. Like you're gonna fail and have successes together, and it's not just gonna be based on, if your group did well in a fucking raid or whatever and got some better gear. It's gonna be like we just took over the city together, working from the bottom, met, just purely in game and everything. And I think it's gonna be cool to see how bonds like that will shape the whole climate of the game and the economy and everything.
All right.
There's definitely going to be a meta game. I think you both just brought up really good points, that your reputation is going to matter and that relationships are going to matter. And I absolutely agree with what you just said. When you have an objective and you as a group are able to go up against another team, another group of guilds, and accomplish your objective, that is absolutely going to form camaraderie. That's going to be cool.
Well, I think, you hit it right on the head there, Tug. I think that your relationships with every single person, you may see wars that happen just because people dislike one guild or one person in a guild, where some guilds there may be a large guild that comes in contact with another guild, and they see this guild and they've had good relations with them. Even though they're in an enemy node, they may bypass that node just knowing that guild's in there and they have good ties with them. I really think it's really interesting that the factions could be so expansive and so influential upon everyone's gameplay.
Do we like the idea of giant? Okay, the idea of giant player-run factions is great, but that also means that there's not going to be a lot of room, possibly, for people looking to create new factions for themselves, new guilds. They'll be pigeonholed into joining a larger faction. How do we feel about that? Or is there going to be a system that will help the small people survive?
Are you talking about smaller groups getting eaten by the larger groups just
Yes.
because they get bullied out of like whatever they're? I mean,
Bullied
I
out
think
everything.
it's going to be a lot of power in numbers, and it's going to be, I think some smaller groups will get bullied. I think maybe smaller groups will be able to alliance with other bigger groups, not necessarily get taken over by them. And like maybe they could have like a market guild within somebody else's city. They might not be as influential, but I think they can still be their own within the game, and maybe even have like a area they can call their own within somebody else's node. And
Well,
be alliance with them.
I mean, you kind of got to think of it in this way. I mean, the popular show right now is Game of Thrones, and one of the characters on there said chaos is a ladder. I think that's how the small guilds are going to rise in power. I think you're going to have these large guilds. They'll be battling it out with each other. The small guilds are the ones who are going to benefit the most from large guilds fighting. Because when the nodes come falling down, that's going to test the large guilds and see if they're going to stay strong. If the small guilds are going out and hitting caravans, they're growing in power, they're growing over time, and I think that's what's really going to benefit the small guilds, is that the large guilds might be the backbone of the force, but your small guilds are going to be the ones who are actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting, because they're going to be doing all the precise hits and stuff like that. And I think that's how they're going to rise in power, because you may have a brand new guild, but eventually the large guilds will lose power or shake in their foundation, and if you work hard enough, you will rise in power.
All right.
I think Intrepid can facilitate some of that if they make their objectives to either grow your node, to have a siege, to de-level a node. If they make those objectives very centralized, then it's going to be conducive to a large guild coming in and just taking out that objective through the ability to mass numbers. But if they decentralize it, a well-organized guild will still be able to attack those decentralized objectives, but it'll make room for smaller groups as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing, is alliances. I think this game is going to be focused more on the alliances than I think the individual guilds. So you're going to have guild X, Y, and Z. They're going to have to decide which of them is best to put in which places in their node and in neighboring nodes, to make sure that their alliance as a whole pushes forward and becomes top alliance.
All right. Do we have anything else?
Well, one of the things that Steven likes.
Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
One of the things one of the things that Steven likes to say is risk versus reward. If I can talk, risk versus reward, which is something that I really gravitate towards. There is a little inherent risk going in and starting your own guild and starting out with 10 guys and jumping into a game where you're the small fish, and you take a huge risk doing that. But your reward could be, you get lucky, you make the right friends, you make the right actions, your choices actually pan out right, and you go from this small 10-man guild to a guild that holds a node with a metropolis in it with 100 people. You never know what your choices are going to be, and that's what this game, to me at least, is going to facilitate, is you make the right risks, the right calculated risks, you're going to get the reward. And I think that's how this game is going to shine for small guilds, is it's going to allow them to change their stars, to so to speak, by making calculated risks, whether that be through trade, diplomacy, locking down a certain dungeon and just farming it. I've seen 10, 20 man guilds lock down certain areas of places and farm it and keep other guys off just out of pure skill. So I'm really thinking that small guilds are going to have the incentive to do that instead of just thinking, oh, well, we're going to give up because we can't compete. Let's just fold into this 300 man guild and call it a day.
And another thing is, new players are going to be pressured into having to form alliances with at least someone. Because as a solo player, it's going to be hard to, like you could obviously become like a merchant or something, but it'd be a lot easier if you were like with a guild. And if you're trying to go into a guild that's already long-standing and has their core player base, and it's going to be hard to actually, even if you could get in, you'd kind of be just like a grunt. If you want to move up quicker, it'd be pressured to go into little guilds. So I think it's just going to naturally happen that all the smaller guilds are going to grow, especially the ones that are doing things. Like, even if it's not big stuff, just like, yeah, raiding caravans and whatever.
All right.
Well, I mean, yeah, if we all recall from PAX, there was the one woman who talked about how the single player content in the game, and Steven kind of put it bluntly, this is an MMO, we will have single player content, stuff you can do on your own. The main objective is to play with the group and finding a group to play with. And I think that the larger guilds, although they may be successful in PvP, I think the everyday day-to-day stuff is going to be more successful in smaller guilds because they have the capability of being closer knit and having their core group really be a strong foundation to drive themselves forward, and that will recruit more and more people as they see how your core group operates.
She just wanted to play Skyrim online, huh?
Basically. You got to check out that it's
All right. Okay. Besides nodes, is there anything else we want to talk about?
I think I had a few things I wanted to.
Oh,
And he's gone.
Oh no!
there he goes. He's back.
We thought you finally did it. We thought you finally just ended it all.
Yeah, just I'm done. So one thing I wanted to bring up is, so with sieges, how are they going to make it happen? I think one thing that I did see in Elder Scrolls Online that was pretty fun was the concept of tearing down keeps and breaking inside, but also having mobile siege weapons that players can carry and place down. I really think that'd be interesting to have in the game, because he said things are going to be destructible. Almost everything in a city is going to be destructible. So I'm wondering.
I'd like to see, because you're right. In ESO, you do place down siege weapons, but I'd like to see a bit more static change towards this, because there is a certain point in which, realistically, your character should not be able to carry around 15 trebuchets, let alone one. I think there's a certain investment you might be able to make to set up your trebuchet before the siege, so you're not exactly carrying them around, but there's maybe like an NPC you go to, or you build it on the site. Like you can bring the materials.
You could have them on wheels, and you'd have a.
That would be ideal if you actually had wheels and you could push it around.
Yeah, or even have horses that pull it.
Oh yeah,
make it like hey. Like y'all are talking about right now, you think of Sea of Thieves, where you need a crew to operate the different parts of your boat or your ship. They should be crew-served weapons.
Yeah. And, to go along that, I mean, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you had a horse that was pulling around ballistas? You tie up the ballistas to the back of the horse, and, you ride on up, place down the ballista, and you have one guy who's reloading it and then one guy who's firing it. I think that'd be kind of cool. And it'd be that they only have so much ammo, and that'd be a good way to make it so that like we said, the smaller guilds are doing something. They're bringing ammunition to the front. They're bringing supplies. They're making sure the war efforts keep going. I think that'd be a good way to balance things out, because let's say the defenders, they hold for a whole day and the attackers just have no more ammunition. That could be a way for the defenders to win. I did notice, though, is they are talking about bringing in siege ladders and siege towers. I think that would be really interesting to see in a game, because, I mean, Tug, I don't know about you, but wouldn't it be kind of cool if you're just like waiting there for the door to fall down and it drops and like 20 arrows into your face? Like,
like the beginning of Witcher 2.
Yeah, Witcher 2 or Kingdom of Heaven. Like, like,
Yes.
I mean,
knocking over the ladders on top of the wall.
oh, God, good times.
People are climbing.
Those are the times when you want control of your camera so you can get that right cinematic recording of it.
Yes. Yes, free camera, please.
Yeah, because
For
I'm
some
imagining, what was it? Rise, Son of Rome, when they were doing like that, like, I'm imagining something along those lines, but like everyone's a player. So I think that'd be kind of cool if, you know, they need to make it so every single person, although you may be just a number, you know, very large siege, I think they need to make it so every single person can make a change in the siege. So
I hope that you do have epic moments. So I hope I don't lose the audience with this, but yesterday I was playing squad and I was on a motorcycle that had an IED on it, and I pulled my motorcycle up next to a troop logi, and we blew up my motorcycle and, you know, committed suicide and blew up their vehicle with 8 of them in it. And that's just an epic moment, right? Whenever you go in, hey, shut up, Sage. Whenever you go into these sieges and you knock down that door, you want that epic feel as you go through it.
You do. Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean,
Did you say
looking
dude?
into MMOs, when was the last time you honestly had that epic moment? I mean, there's always the high skilled player.
I just
that
told
can,
you.
like, one. I mean, is that an MMO?
Oh God, David Tuck.
Sorry.
But I know, like, if you look into ESO, right, you have the player that can like 1vx, and he happens to survive and like take down 10 people, and that's as epic as that might get in an ESO PvP situation. But you don't have like anything more than that.
I think a lot of games often have it where you have situations where you'll go and wipe out an entire team, like Battlefield, for example. You know, sometimes you get those moments where you just come up behind everyone and just gun everyone down. I think going back to Tug's stealth thing is, if they do it right, you could have one rogue come up and just destroy an enemy line without them knowing, if they make the mechanics right. You know, if they make it so the risk versus reward, so it's not just like, if Tug comes up on a tank and he stabs him in the neck, that tank should probably go down. You know, there should be a chance for him to knock down that tank. You know, I think they need to make surprise a thing in the game to ensure that players, you know, you have that moment. You have the extraordinary, gleeful moment where you're just hacking and slashing away, killing everything in your path. I think that'd really be cool. And, you know, to make it that it's not just one player who has mid-maxed completely. You know, they should make some sort of mechanic in the game to make it so, you know, maybe not even just a mid-maxer is wrecking everyone. Maybe just because they know how to play the game, they're doing better.
Yeah, and what you were saying in Sieges about like a group or even just a couple rogues sneaking into like the city and stuff, it'd be cool if they had like maybe a back route, like you could come up through the sewers or something to be able to backdoor the enemy team.
I was just thinking about tunneling too. Like, wouldn't that be cool to be able to tunnel under the walls and And in
Skaven
the olden days,
style.
they used to tunnel under the walls. And I'm a history major, so be prepared to take a nap here.
Oh,
They would dig under the walls, and then they would light pigs and stuff on fire and shuttle them down the tunnel. It'd burn out all the supports, and then the walls would come down, and that would be an epic. I mean, talking about epic moments, the entire wall just comes down because all these burning pigs ran down your tunnel.
Pigs on fire. Yeah,
That's
I'm
confirmed. That's now part of the game.
Let's make it
fire
happen.
pigs.
Okay, you know what? So I think we've talked about this stuff pretty well, but I think a thing that we need to talk about right now, since it seems like quite a few people have been in an uproar about it, the Mount Teddy Bear.
Oh,
Who else thinks that is just immersion breaking? It's just not what we expected when we were looking at the game. It just seems wrong, doesn't it?
This is quite the change in subject, but yeah, I mean, I don't see why they need to take that route. It, early in the game, you usually don't see stuff like that. Like if the game had been out for 5 or 6 years, you could definitely see them coming out with goofy stuff like that just to kind of liven it up or whatever. But I mean, doing stuff like that is just it's a little ridiculous.
So
To
I
go
think
that cutesy route.
I think the teddy bear is an easy one because it's easy to look at that and say, that's dumb. That doesn't fit. But the swan boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the swan. It reminds me of One Piece or some shit like that.
I
I
support the
love
swan,
the swan
boat.
boat.
I support the swan boat, and I want cannons on it, and I want it to breathe fire.
I'll agree with you. I thought everything else in that pack was cool, but the teddy bear was what threw me off because people are scared. They're worried that this is what the game's going to be. It's just going to be some weird kawaii, cutesy stuff from now on. And I've been telling people I think that's because this was supposed to be the February pack of stuff, and they held it off for a month. So that was supposed to be the Valentine's Day theme. So we will see if things change in the near future. But,
So,
I agree with you. The swan boat, I love that thing. It looks beautiful.
if the teddy bear didn't have the stuffing coming out, would it be better?
Yeah.
If the teddy bear was a real bear, it'd be better.
Yeah.
How about that?
A bear with a bow tie. Like, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
You ride around Yogi Bear.
Yeah, Yogi Bear, basically.
Hey, boo boo, we're gonna go PvP.
Get the pigs.
Yeah. Oh god. I mean, and that's the thing. What the reason the teddy bear I think threw me and many others for a loop is because we've seen all the silhouetted mounts that they released, and it's really odd because those silhouetted mounts looked really out there. They looked very creative, very cool, and then they throw this at us. It's and it's obviously disgruntled quite a few people because of the outcry I've seen and heard from several people.
You look at those mount silhouettes too, though, and people use the immersion breaking argument for the teddy bears, but a lot of those mounts were quite fantastic in their scale and different things like that too. I think there is a lot of immersion breaking in that as well.
Mm-hmm. And if they're going to have a 5-story tall mount, how is that going to hold up in a siege? You know what I mean? I'm wondering, are you going to be riding a rain corps through the battlefield, just chopping people down, knocking over siege towers? Is that going to be a thing, or are they going to scale things down? That's kind of a big worry that I've had.
A guild of dinosaur riders that just runs over a city would be pretty dumb.
I think they'll scale
Actually,
things down.
yeah.
I think there'll
Big
be the
elephants,
actual model, and then there'll be the realistic
Carthage.
model for the.
Yeah, Karthos. I like the war elephants. It's BDO. I didn't play much BDO, but I did see the guild war elephant, and it did seem pretty cool to be able to throw spears off of its back as it's running through stuff.
Well, of
Oki's
course,
point. So go ahead, Karthos.
Oh, I said, of course, the counter to a war elf is just a blonde-haired elf, right, with a bow. You just send him out there, and he shoots the hell out of it, and it dies.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can have my axe anytime, man.
Yeah, Oki's pointed out in the chat, thinking about the silly mounts. What was that? Was it the Pride Stalker, or what was that early butterflied wing one we had?
The
Oh
butterfly
yeah,
wing.
yeah.
See, I can take the butterfly wing one seriously though, because at least it's a creature that they can like. I mean, we've had griffins before. It's like a half lion, half eagle, right? They just took a half fluff, half butterfly and put it into a thing, called it a creature of their own. I don't mind that if they explain it, but the teddy bear is a little more than I would prefer.
Yeah, and like if they would have made it more, get rid of the fur coming out, but if they would have made it so it's like a Valentine's themed war bear, that would have been kind of cool. But I don't know. I think the stuffing comes out. I think goes a little. Unless the only way I could think that this would work with immersion, it's a summoner mount.
What's the teddy bear?
I wasn't.
No,
gonna summon
you're
the-
summoning toys.
No, I wasn't
like
gonna say
war.
summoning
It's
toys.
like
I was
a
gonna
war
say
puppet.
more,
The puppet master.
Yeah, it's like a war puppet.
I was gonna
A
say
Nightmare
not
Before
summoning,
Christmas
but more
themed
like
teddy bear.
Basically,
animator.
Oh, we just dye the stuffing red, and it would look more.
there we go. It's dying.
Friday Night
It
Freddy's.
seems
Guts
to-
coming
Yeah,
out.
there we go. It's a golem. That's what I was going with.
like a golem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, you know, if
oh
you can
God.
turn stone to life, what says you can't turn fluff to life?
Kind
They
of.
can-
We just now figured out why the teddy bear exists and why it's actually not immersion breaking.
They ran out of content, so they're adding flow.
They're adding
Shiny.
flow. God.
Do you think these kind of mounts that they've been selling in the store are going to be skins for things from like animal husbandry, or going to be just totally standalone, separate system?
I think they'll be standalone mounts.
I mean, wouldn't it? I think it'd be kind of cool if with the mounts they had categories of mounts. So it's if you have a horse, you can have horse-styled things. Let's say if it's more of a bestial type thing, you can have beast-styled. If it's a large creature, you can have large, hovering, whatnot. I think that'd be a good way to break it up. Because if you can have just any random mount you grab out in the wilderness can suddenly become a war balloon elephant thing, like, I don't know if that's really all that great, because I think it'd be... I think that actually hurts the economy, because if you have one guy who's able to breed a specific kind,
Yeah, I
think
think
that'd
what
be
they have going on in chat, they're right. They are skins. So
Mhm.
you have to unlock a normal mount first, and then you can apply the design of what you've bought
Yeah.
previously.
Mm.
But I do like your idea for having
They
different
showed us-
animal categories.
They showed us at one point how animal husbandry can morph the look of that lion face, if you remember that. Do you feel like
Oh.
applying skins to the mount that you as an animal husbander, I don't even know, work to get the way you wanted, kind of cheapens that?
Well, I kind of wonder if skins in general, how they're going to make those operate in game. Because if it'd be cool if you could have that the skins are affected by what style of, how strong your horse is or whatever. Like if you have it all into strength and whatnot, is this just going to be, is what it would regularly look like, is that going to be diminished because of the skin, or is the skin going to go on top of what it currently is?
I think the
think that
skin will be
becomes-
purely unmodifiable. It'll just be, you just place it on top and it's the look you get.
Mhm.
If you want to actually
'Cause,
play
I
around
mean,
with the
we had-
customization of it, you'd want to not apply the skin to it.
Yeah. But we did have what was it? $1,000 pack has the elemental and the angelic and the demonic skins. I mean, I've been kind of wondering. I'm like, well, is it going to be where you get to have wings and you can wear whatever armor you want, or is everyone who has that is all going to look like the same exact person? That's kind of a big wonder of mine because I mean,
I thought
if everyone has to look like the same exact thing, it kind of cheapens the actual worth of it compared to if you could put on different armor but still keep the kind of golden aura or the demonic aura to it.
I think the worth to those though is you could acquire them for 1 month and you had to pay $1,000 for them. So they're exclusive. So of course other people are going to have it and they're going to look the same as you, but everyone else is going to come up to you 2 years from now and be like, "Where'd you get that? Like that's amazing." And you're the only one I've seen with that on, and there's an element of exclusivity with it, even though you look identical to everyone else that's got it on.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I mean, it's a status symbol at that point.
so. All right, quick update
Well,
for everybody.
and-
We are going on an hour right now, so if we are all in favor, we can conclude it here.
I think is everyone down to go for another 30 minutes, or if you guys are free, we can keep going.
I think we had some more content to cover, but it's up to y'all.
Yeah, I don't have a life. I can go for an extra hour if you guys want.
Tug, you good to go?
I'm good.
All right.
Did you say a wife or a life?
Oh, he doesn't know.
I don't have either of those. I don't have a wife or a life, so
Good to go.
Mine's locked up right now. I'm okay.
Oh god, I don't know.
Tug threw her in a closet with a Snickers bar. She's good for an hour.
She's fine.
So skins, I think, are something that it's cool to have, but it also worries me. Is with the end game, are we going to see it where all of the things have to be paid? Are we gonna, if we want that nice tier 3 looking freehold or something, are we gonna have to pay for that? I kind of wonder about these skins and wonder if they're gonna make it into something interesting.
So, like the extent of cash shop skins.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of scary. The only reason I am kind of scared of it just because we've seen so many skins pumped out already. We've had like 4 different backer packages now, between the original for Kickstarter, only had the summer, then we had the Necromancer one, and now we're on to the current one.
Yeah, I mean, aren't we gonna? We have another probably 8 more months, so at least 8 more clothing, 8 more mounts, 8 more housing, 8 more boats or what have you. So, like, we have quite a few things that are going to be more stuff that are going to be skins in the game. Kind of, it worries me because I don't want it to be like a BDO thing. I don't want it to be where for you to look cool, you have to have skins. I want it to be where you can choose to have the skins, but the main point is to look cool through what you craft and what you wear. I think that would be beneficial because honestly, that's what turned me off to BDO is that everything you look like a rock, like an ugly rock if you don't buy the other stuff. So
The other thing,
yeah,
the other thing that comes into play with that is they've talked about for each race, the armor that's crafted is going to have a different look and feel. It's not just the same armor model for each race. So I don't know if that applies to skins or not, but you're right. There's absolutely a huge scope of work to create all of these different things, and how much creativity is there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of player-made cosmetics. Like, I remember in WoW, you could make the Pilgrim outfit and the Santa outfit, and there was always a big rush if you were a tailor during Christmas time to make the Santa elf and all that stuff. And I would love to see that. It's some sort of aspect of crafting where you can make sort of a unique. You can, I don't know if you can discover a recipe or you just mix a bunch of stuff together and hope it looks good. Within reason. I don't want like 1,000 people run around looking like the Joker. Like it seems like in their game, but it would be kind of cool to have player-made cosmetics where they have a little bit of freedom to customize it in a way.
Well, like I think with as far as a good system to go by that Intrepid should really look into is Elder Scrolls Online does have a very good skin and also crafting system. They just implemented it in a dye and transmog system that really works. Basically, anyone who has, if you research and understand a certain style of crafting, so like let's say you know Dwarven, you now can wear Dwarven and transmog your gear to look like Dwarven, and you can mix and match with Dunmer and other types of races. And I think that's really what they need to do. They need to make it so you can mix and match. So Karthos, you can wear high elf mixed with dwarf mixed with human. I think that really would be really what would be the most beneficial, because if we're going to have thousands of players, it not everyone wants to look like the same cookie cutter racial styled armor. I think good mix and match,
I'm
give
not
players
afraid
the
of
ability to
everyone.
look how they want.
I feel everyone will look unique. I just don't want them to find that uniqueness from just a cash shop page of 1,000 different costumes and skins that they
Yeah.
could have
Oh,
put
of
into the
course, yeah.
game. Like, I don't want them withholding cosmetics for a cash shop.
Yeah, definitely having higher level like armor makers making the better gear. Well, cooler gear, but yeah, also just like better stat gear. I don't know if y'all want to transition into that, but as far as like when people make weapons or armor and stuff, like the higher their level, the better gear they can make.
hmm
Maybe they specialize in a certain type of gear, like a sword maker or something.
Yeah. And I mean, I think if you have it where different people, that's going to make it crafting a huge thing in the game. As if Tug knows all of the styles of dwarves, and everything, then he should be able to sell his wares because they look a certain way to other players because they want that look, and they can learn that look from back researching or something, deconstructing it. I think that'd be a good way to make that the economy keeps floating, and that people are always looking to research and stuff because it looks cool. They want the new looks. They want to mix and match more than just having skins.
Yep. I think it'd be great.
In the audience, I think Angel Cry made a good point that you do want some of the in-game cosmetics to be unique and stand out so that it shows mastery. We accomplished this raid or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, like how WoW had, you're dropping, you can't craft the gear that they drop in there. If you want to look a certain way, you have to unlock it, and like that's the coolest thing I think that WoW
Oh,
did
yeah.
was the end
Especially,
game raids. Someone was saying to me the coolest thing they did was back in the day just sit in Stormwind Ironforge and with their cool end tier armors, and just everyone's looking at it. They see that, hey, you finished it. You have this glowing aura, or you have this cool ass mount. I think that's what would make people drive. People love collecting mounts. They love collecting armors. They want that unique stuff to show that they actually did something.
It would be cool if you did have something like auras that only existed while you were the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever pushes that PvE progression the farthest, or we get new content or whatever, that aura changes hands.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
yes, dude.
I was just agreeing. So definitely,
I
it's a good
like.
idea.
I think a big thing that we need to look into is the fact that we need one person to have this look, as you said, Tug. The best PvPers, the best PvEers, the mayors, stuff like that. They need to have stuff that make them unique. So when you have that moment when you're just walking around in the world, if someone sees you, you're going to be like, "Hey, I got this, and this is how I got it." You can become good at the game too, kid, if you just work hard and achieve your dreams and some corny ass crap. But I think it
But
really,
hopefully, your dreams aren't achieved through RNG alone
yeah,
and drop rates. You actually
mm-hmm,
do earn, and your time is well spent.
yep,
Well, and
yeah,
jumping off from that too, unique items as well. I remember it was always vanilla WoW would jumping back to that example, if you downed Onyxia, you could go plunk her head down in the middle of your capital city, and you could walk up and see, oh look, this guild did this, and that would be cool if you could do something like that. Your guild comes back and throws up a banner that, hey, we did this, or everyone who defeats the boss gets something to put in their
a
house
title
or something. Yeah, or a title too. Those are always neat.
Let's say if the only dragon in the world suddenly appears and like this raid group kills that dragon, they should have the title Dragon Slayer. I think stuff like that would be really interesting.
And if they if they do stuff like that, where there's like a world boss that everyone can cooperate in killing, I think it'd be important to do something like planet side, like when you take the bases, like whoever did the most damage to the dragon, most healing, who helped the most in the fight, that's the company that gets like most benefits from it or whatever.
I'm pretty sure they've said they're going to have some sort of stat keeping system built into the game, haven't they? Didn't they say that on one of the streams?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine they have to do something like that for sieges.
Yeah. See which guilds are going to be top guilds for that. I know this is going a little bit off topic, but I know people have talked about what is guilds. What are guilds going to be able to do? What's the benefit of being in a guild? I know that people were talking about guild logos, guild ranks, like how customizable are we going to have? What's the benefit? Is it just going to be another name? Are we going to just have the same standard, like you can have this owl and put it on a shield? Like, is that what we're going to have for guild logos? Or are we going to be able to, like any Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade, they had it where top guilds, they were able to submit in their designs and stuff, and the actual game artists would actually craft out and design the art to put it in as the in-game guild logos. And I think that would really be interesting to have. So then we're not going to see a bunch of swastikas and penises running all over the place. It's the artists themselves are creating it. I think that'd be kind of interesting. Maybe down the road, but like I think it'd be fun. So then the top guilds, once you reach a certain rank, you're able to get this. I think that'd be kind of a benefit to having a strong guild. And this could work for it wouldn't even be based on total numbers. It'd just be based on ranks of guilds. So small guilds would have just as much chance as large guilds to unlock these logos. I mean, what have you guys seen from other MMOs with guild logos that really struck a chord with you that you want to see in the game? Karthos.
Okay, go ahead, Karthos.
I think the coolest system, but also the one with the most pitfalls, was probably Arcage's ability. You could just load up a PNG file, and I mean, that game was so horribly moderated that every day I'd go out in my boat and I'd see like 3 Hitlers sail by, because it was you just see they could load up any image they wanted, and so there's a little bit of work on, if Intrepid was to do that system, there'd be some work where they'd have to go through and moderate but people were putting all kinds of stuff up on their guild logos and their sales and stuff. And it's a cool system because you got to have these guilds really design these really cool, unique, awesome logos and port them into the game, and then everyone has them. But there was some moderation work. But to me, that was the coolest system. Maybe not the safest, but that was been my favorite so far, I think, because you could load up just about anything you wanted to. You could put your own face on there for a while. I think I had Emma Watson at one point on my cape. So
because you're classy.
Because I'm classy. Yeah, she was classy lady. So.
Yeah, where the L is fucking the A, right? He's classy.
And I think something they want to avoid when it comes to designing logos is just giving people a bunch of shapes and shit to work with and move them around how they want, because you're just going to get a bunch of rudimentary penises versus like an uploaded PNG file. Like you're going to get the exact same problem, probably to a greater extent, if you just have like a rudimentary creation system within the game.
I
There
like
was an early
Anduin's
Call
idea
of
the
Duty
most.
Black Ops.
where you could do that, and people made some pretty advanced stuff with the shading.
Well, I know on Battlefield, I think 3, Battlefield 3 and 4, they had it where on their website you could actually spend hours and hours and put shapes together, and people were creating Mr. T and stuff out of shapes, and like you were having really crazy stuff. And I think that's, if they have systems like that where you have to submit it and they have a moderator approve it, I think that'd be kind of cool. I think an approval system would be, if they give us the freedom to customize our stuff, they should have someone that sits there and they just moderate it. Because I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, maybe in the first month it's going to be terrible. There's going to be like 1,000 guilds popping up, but as the game progresses, you're not going to have all of these same. You're not going to have 1,000 guilds keep regrowing and stuff. And they could also make it where you only unlock the custom banners, the custom guild emblems once your guild is a certain rank.
Yeah.
You don't you get to use a flag with a bear on it up until rank
bear mount.
5. Yeah, the teddy bear. But yeah, you get to use these generic guild emblems until your guild reaches a certain rank, and then once that happens, then you can submit a either like a PNG, like an image, or you can submit your customized object thing to them, and then a moderator would give you like 3 days to review it, and if they don't find anything wrong with it, they let it go through. I think that'd be a good way to moderate it, so it's not just like anyone can put out a random swastika or Hitler or something like that.
I think
it'd be good.
that rank for which you need to earn a custom guild banner would have to be very high, in all honesty, because yeah, the amount of guilds being created will diminish over time, but there will still always be a lot of guilds being created, simply because there might be the idea of, if you look at like WoW, where you have an alt tune and then you give a guild to that alt tune so that they can access the guild bank, just so you have extra banking space. If they have something like that, and there will be the single guilds for the people just looking to gain the small benefits, then you will have a lot of guilds being created. So I do think that there should be a high degree at which you need to earn a custom logo.
And I mean, there has been tons of talk about what things will be added into games, and I think as far as guild benefits, I mean, you got logos. I mean, really having an identity. Steven has said on multiple occasions that it's not going to just be tabards and cloaks. We're going to have guild armors and stuff like that. It's going to be customizable. We're going to make it's going to be to a point where hopefully the guild lead will be able to choose the armor sets that they want and put those as the skins, quote unquote, for the guild to wear. I think that'd be kind of interesting if, let's say a siege is taking place and, all of Mutiny is wearing this specific set. I think that'd be kind of cool to see implemented into the game, and that it's not just like in Guild Wars 2 where you have the guild armor, quote unquote, but it's all the same style. I think it'd be really interesting to see it, that it's, customizable, very, very unique in what the guild wants to portray themselves as. So a guild that's more tankier, they can have knights. Guild that's stealthy, they'll have roguish looking ranger people. I think that'd be a good way to make that guilds can really show off what they're all about. So
Yeah, I think definitely covered the benefits of guild stuff, being in a guild. If y'all wouldn't mind us transition into like a little bit back to combat, there was one thing I definitely wanted to bring up before we ended.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the corruption system. it's really interesting. Obviously, corruption system is if you attack a player and they don't attack back and you kill them, then you get corruption. So it's like trying to prevent ganking, but also trying to keep people who like I guess don't want to engage in combat, like keeping them from like having to fight against somebody and those people get punished for just taking out the people who are just running away. Um, how do y'all think that would transition into like corrupt guilds? And do you think that it's going to be like we're going to get this huge divide of guilds that are mainly comprised of wholesome people versus guilds that are mainly comprised of people who are corrupt? Y'all think that that's going to cause a lot of like just going to split the community almost in half, like fighting good against evil in a way?
Your corruption diminishes.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, not if you keep it up. Like
He's
just wanna be
talking
a
about if
guild.
yeah, he's talking about the bad guys starting to team up with each other and the good guys teaming up with each other.
Well, I think right now we don't have a clear concept of how it's going to work. We just know that killing a player doesn't fight back is going to cause corruption. But just more speculation wise, do y'all think that there is going to be just a divide of guilds who are, pure PvP just out to cause shit versus other guilds who are trying to do diplomacy and stuff? Like some kind of orc warband guild that just fucking wants to murder everybody.
So, will the corruption? Well, I mean, I think that's interesting though, because then you do have evil factions,
Mhm.
and I like evil factions. Like, I like if you like walk into a specific node, and it's like all if you like you're walking down the street, and all the eyes from all the shadows are staring at you. It was just filled with thieves and murderers and people who sell black market goods. I think it creates a very fun diversity in the game so that you don't have every single city or every single guild just knights, good people. You have those entire factions of people dedicated to doing bad shit.
Yeah. Underground market, that's interesting too. Like stolen weapons or something. It would be interesting to see if there is some sort of thing where you can steal like a merchant stuff if you break into the city and take it over and kill the merchant and stuff. If you get any rewards from that, like some of their weapons you can sell or whatever.
I don't know if they'll go this route, but what if some things dropped off players when they died?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Nothing important, I would say, but like crafting materials, maybe. It's a dangerous thing to
Definitely hard to
balance.
speculate on that because we don't really know what they're thinking in terms of the death penalty. Other than that, there will be one and they want it to be harsh.
I think it's going to force people to be more calculated in when they gank. Like what Steven's kind of vision for this seems like, to me at least, is he wants to minimize the people going into newbie zones and just laying waste to all the people who are just trying to quest and level up and stuff. And there are going to be areas for actual meaningful. People have to use the word meaningful when they talk about PvP. And with the caravan system, and I'm hoping that the ocean is going to be a completely open PvP zone because I want to get on a ship and just start tearing up trade routes is one of the things I'm interested in. And with the corruption system, at least how I see it, is it's going to make people, if they're going to go down that route, they're going to go down that route full bore. They're going to fully commit to it, and they're going to go out with friends. And you're not going to see the lone guy going around necessarily trying to gank newbies anymore. You're going to see these people who are going to fully commit to that lifestyle because, as we said earlier, risk versus reward. Now you have a huge risk because you get this corruption. You get a debuff. You get stuff that drops off you when you die, and it's a system that's put in place, and I really, at this point, don't know whether it's good or bad yet. So I'm excited to see where it leads us, but
I think it depends on
my
how
personal
much you
opinion is I
use.
think it's going to make people be more careful or at least more calculated about when they actually go out and gank people.
Another thing it does is it supports playing with groups, is don't entirely always go out alone, or don't venture too far out alone. Maybe stay within the vicinity of your node where you know you'll be safe.
I hope that there's international waters where corruption doesn't happen at sea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree fully.
Oh god, we'll have to talk about, since we're running a little low on time, we'll have to save sea combat and what we want out of the sea for the next podcast. But I think international waters, maybe demilitarized zones, stuff like that on land. I think places that really would make it where the shadier people will hang out, where if you're a new player, you don't go to those areas because you will get ganked by somebody. I think that really would benefit immersion in the game, where a real outlaw's den of sorts, I think, would be a good area to have in the game. Maybe in an area between warring nodes, they'd have something like that, or heavily traveled trade routes, or let's say if there's trade routes between cities and an event happens that suddenly this trade route is suddenly not protected, it's now considered a war zone. Anyone who goes in it is flagged. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, PvP zones. That's definitely going to be big. Be interesting to see how they actually work those out. I know I really liked the way, I don't know if any of y'all played Warhammer Online, but the way they did their PvP areas was probably the best part about that game. And if they did something similar to that, it'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything anyone else wanted to add, before we run out of time? Any subjects you wanted to bring up that we haven't got to yet?
Without going too deep into another conversation, I don't think there's anything else we can really cover. We've only got about 3 minutes remaining.
Well, if anything, guys, tune in sometime soon. We'll make a post about when we're doing this again. We'll probably have some of the same guests, probably some new guests, and we really want to broaden this out. We want to have formal discussions between the community, get as many people involved in this as possible, because we really want to make sure that people are getting their voices out there and getting heard. Thank you, Karthos from Mutiny, and Tugowar from Cohort for joining us this time. I hope to see everyone next time, and bring your friends, because we'll have a few good laughs and a few good points to make. So everyone have a good time.
Thanks, guys. It's been enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Yeah,
By
thanks
all
for coming. I
means.
know it was last second. I invited y'all, but I'm glad y'all could make it.
Make sure to follow the stream. I stream regularly, and you can come by. I can keep you updates on the Grey Sentinels as well. You can find a way to integrate yourself into our community if you are interested in playing any of the variety of games that we often do embark upon. We run events. We have fun. Yeah.
All right.
Tug,
All
do
right.
you want to plug anything before we go?
I'm good.
All right.
Karthos, plug.
Eat fiber and take care of your heart.
Don't forget to exercise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
And masturbate in moderation, please.
Stand up every now and then and do stretches in between gaming sessions. There you go, guys. Brought to you by the Grey Sentinels.
Orange juice helps.
Orange juice.
The
All right.
vitamin C.
Okay. Everyone have a good night now.